today we're with.
Do I say my title or
You can
my name?
say your name.
Okay, my name is Jane Sherman.
Okay, can you tell us about your childhood?
Ooh, diving right into this. Okay. So my childhood was like a mix of good and bad. I would explain it as more complicated. Uh, Looking from the outside, you'd say like, okay, like wow, like really great family, like upper middle class, like my family, like we do have money, but it's not what you would see as like, oh, your family has money, like you live a perfect life, you must be so happy and all this stuff. It's like the complete opposite if you were to walk in and really live our life. So, yes, I was able to have things and like have access to things, but it was to the point of where my parents just did not get along very well, and it was, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was just extremely difficult because my mom would often get physical with my brother and my dad because they wouldn't obey her. And I was kind of this quiet kid that would kind of follow orders. And I guess you could say, like, I'm really good at following orders just because of that. So I didn't really know what was right versus wrong. I just kind of, like, followed it and didn't really speak up. So I would say it was really complicated. And then my dad would drink often to just not be emotionally there. And that was difficult because, like, your dad is supposed to be your dad. He's supposed to be, like, emotionally there. But it was to the point of where he would drink to be present, but not be entirely present, if that makes sense. So I just remember like growing up, like things would happen between my brother and I, like obviously like your siblings, like things wouldn't really go well. In certain parts you'd have disagreements and stuff. And I just remember like my mom just emotionally did not want to be involved when it came to conflict. And then my dad, he was working a job, which I think kind of ended up being beneficial for him. He was working a job over in an island in New York, so he wouldn't really be there most of the time. And it was like I would almost have to solve all of my own problems, or if it was my brother's problem, I kind of like solved his problems in a way. And I was like 5 at this point, and it's like you can't tell a 5-year-old to like go solve their own problem because they don't have the tools, they don't understand that. And so from a young age, it was like I kind of solved my own problems and solved my brother's problems as well. And so that was that. And then also at that point, and I'm not going to go into this because that's his personal drama, but there was stuff going on with my brother, and to the point of where my mom actually brought him to a mental hospital. And it's like at that age, like what do you do, like kind of thing. And I think he was scarred by that, and we were also scarred by that. And my dad, he was working at that time. He went away on a business trip, and he was, I think, in Hawaii, and my dad didn't know what happened, and somehow he found out about it, and he immediately like had to rush home and say that like there was a family issue going on and get my brother out of that situation. And it was just absolutely crazy. So that's just like a little bit of a story of like how messed up it is. I would say. And just realizing like my mom wanted authority, and when she didn't have that authority, her next step was like, okay, well, I'm not the problem. These other people are the problem, so therefore I'm gonna like bring them somewhere that's gonna sort of help them, which isn't gonna solve the problem. So it's just ridiculous. But to add on to that, there were good parts where like we went to Disneyland, and like I went to camps, and I played a lot of sports that really helped me during my parents' divorce, of like when my mom was physical, and there were a lot of disputes of stuff, and it was really scary because ironically, and I don't know if you know anything about Mystic, but it's probably the safest community that you can be in. Nothing bad really happens here, and like knock on wood. But I was a really scared kid, and I often like developed like OCD, and just anxious that like bad things were gonna happen when it doesn't really make sense that bad things would happen. So kind of like having that issue as well. Uh, yeah, I think that kind of goes off into like a deeper tangent, but that kind of scrapes the surface of it.
How did that affect your adulthood?
Adulthood, I would say that I definitely had to grow up from a young age and be a leader, and a lot of people recognize that, and they try to push me into like leadership roles and be an adult. And I'm just kind of realizing it now on how it's shaped myself, because for my whole life I wanted to be a doctor, and obviously like that's a really big role as compared to like someone that just works at McDonald's or something like that. And so I kind of grew up of that identity, and pushing towards that, and I was pre-med up until a certain point, and me realizing how political the medical system is, like I'm not interested in that anymore. But it's kind of like reshaped my identity of who I want to be and who I really am. And in my experience of I'm also in the military as well. My experience of being in the military, it's kind of like allowed me to be the person that I really want to be. And it's questioned like, well, do I want to be a leader, and do I want to kind of grow up, or do I want to have fun? And so lately I've been kind of going back and forth between that of like, do I want to have fun and play and like do all this like really fun stuff of like going on missions, and just doing some real like genuine like childhood stuff, or do I want to be an officer and take that leadership role? And so I would definitely say my experience of my childhood has made me a responsible person, and has made me grow up quite a bit, to the point of where my peers, I don't necessarily relate to them just because they haven't gone through that experience. And so I end up relating to people that are like 30 and 40 and 50. It's just like weird things to say, but people that have more experience and have gone through some hardships. Yep.
Have you ever been in love?
Yes, multiple times actually. And it to this day makes me question if it really was love, if it was something that I was more attracted to based off of what I needed for myself, what I lacked in my childhood. And I was just talking to someone about this recently, because I didn't really think about that way beforehand. And I've had some like rough relationships how they've ended. And it's really made me like reconsider that, just especially my most recent relationship, and I won't go off into that. But it's made me question like, well, was I like really in love with them, or was it based off of like what I needed in that moment?
Were drugs a part of your life growing up in Mystic?
Um, yes and no. The only like drug I really did was weed. I did that a few times just because I wanted to experience it, but also I wanted to get away from feelings that I didn't necessarily want to deal with. And I kind of compare it to like fast food in a way. It's like with fast food, you need something in the moment, so you're gonna go towards like what's convenient for you. And I compare that almost to like drugs in a way, and that's through like alcohol and weed maybe, but a whole bunch of other drugs. It's like you don't want to feel those emotions, and it's what you need in the moment. It's what's convenient for you, and I kind of relied on that in a way to the point of where I was drinking in the morning, drinking for the fun of it, drinking to not feel things with my relationship with my mother, dealing with like toxic relationship with my mom. And yeah, I realized it wasn't okay because it was kind of like diminishing, putting away those feelings that I didn't want to feel. And there's a point in which you need to feel hardship. There's a point when you need to go to a really dark place, experience depression, all of that kind of stuff. And I realized that I needed to feel that. So I no longer drink. I no longer smoke. Like obviously you can't do that in the military, but yeah, I realized that I was going down a really bad path, and being with people that I didn't necessarily want to be with, and it wasn't making me a better person. And it's weird to say and weird to explain it to people when you're 22 and people like look at you like you're an old grandma, but that's just my realizations, and that's just the path that I've gone down.
If you had the chance to speak with your younger self, what would be your advice to yourself?
Hmm. I guess just lately a thought that has occurred to me is you don't need to go to college to be successful. And I say college is that was the worst mistake, but also the best mistake of my life, because yes, it put me into a considerable amount of debt, but I say but it's also taught me what I truly want in life. And if I didn't go down that path of okay, you're gonna go to college, and then COVID's gonna hit, and it's just gonna be excuse my language, a shit show. It brought me down this path of like of needing, because my whole life I was always volunteering. Like even when I was a kid, I volunteered, and I was always part of the community. And I I swam competitively 6 days a week, so it was like I had like this structure, this discipline throughout my whole life, and to all of a sudden not have that anymore, it was like shit, like oh my god, like what am I doing, like my identity, like really like it was a lot for me. So that kind of led me down the military path, which is great. And I didn't think that I would go down towards that path, but then I realized like this is for me. Like these are the people that I want to surround myself with. It's gonna make me a better person, discipline wise, but also make me a better person in terms of just everything of like of being a better person, helping people out, being a better person, physically, mentally, emotionally. And now I really want a career in the military. And I would have never come across that if I didn't go to college. So, but then again, to answer the question, going back to what I would tell my younger self, it's like, you don't need to go to college to be successful. And that's kind of like what society tells you to be. And I think it's really messed up. So I would tell myself that and to not freak out as much. So, yeah.
Okay. So you're in the National Guard. What is your civilian job?
My civilian job, I currently just accepted a position for EMS. So, hopefully that goes well. I start tomorrow, so. But I love that kind of atmosphere. I love that work. So, yeah.
So we interviewed a few homeless veterans about a couple of days ago. Do you have any words for them?
That was a loud swallow. Well, I saw the interviews and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is great. I love the work that you do and the questions that you ask and the stories that you get out of them. Do I have any words for them? I like I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll start with a question from your question. Specifically, do I have any advice or do I have any feedback for them, like what they're going through right now?
You can give a little bit of both.
Advice? Well, certainly I'm not in their position right now, so I can't really give them advice and say that that will necessarily solve your problem. So I don't want to come across as that. But honestly, just taking a step back and ask yourself what you really want. And certainly I haven't gone through their shoes and have been in the situation that they've been through and have served their time and now they're back in civilian life. And so I can't really say correlation is causation. This if you go down this route, then you'll be happy. But for me, in my point of view, honestly, what's going to make me happy and kind of go back towards what made you happy as a child. And certainly it might be a little bit difficult right now, given their situation. But really try to listen to that and what brought you happiness. And I give them so much credit and I respect them so much to serve our country and the position that they're in right now. And I wish that I, could help them out and stuff like that. But honestly, like I'm starting out as well. Like I'm 22. So I learn from them. Honestly, like in a way, they're kind of like my role models. And it's weird to say that, and they might not consider that, but I look at them and I take advice from them almost. I kind of like flip it around, if that makes sense.
Any any last advice for anyone that may be watching this interview?
I guess not be so serious. Like my whole life, I thought I like had to be serious, and that's probably because of like my childhood, and how I had to be an adult from such a young age. Life is not that serious, and I didn't quite realize that and didn't understand that until ironically I was in the military, and it's like you can have fun, you can do things that you think are, I wouldn't say, how would I say this, you think aren't going to be good for you. I don't know if that's like the correct wording for that, but previously I thought that like doing something is going to push me down and wouldn't be good discipline wise, but it's so like it's okay to have fun and live your life and fulfill your childhood, fulfill those dreams, that happiness that you had as a child. And I think you can really go back and look at your childhood and what made you happy, and that's how you find fulfillment, I guess, so to say. I wouldn't say it's lasting, but it's on a path of that. So don't be so serious. You can have fun. So, and also you don't have to go to college to be successful.
All right. It was great speaking with you.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it, and thank you for your time.